Call the meeting to order at 1800. Stand for flag salute. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good job, Jackson.
I told him we do that. We do it every day at school.
Oh, good, okay.
All right, let's do a roll call, please.
Sure can. So Commissioner Tenai? Ragnar? Can you
Yes.
acknowledge you're here?
Here,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Connell?
Here.
Commissioner Jones?
Here.
Commissioner Layton?
Here.
Commissioner Carbright?
Here.
Commissioner Irons?
Here.
And Chair Barisi.
Here.
Okay, we have a full slate tonight.
Nice. Okay, new members.
Well, it's just January and,
Starting the term.
new terms, right? And so the two that were reappointed were, Commissioner Irons and Commissioner Jones. So there were no other, individuals who expressed an interest, and so the council did reappoint them to a successive term.
Congratulations.
Yes,
We do need to do election, January is election time.
yep,
Election of officers, so we need to elect a chair and a vice chair.
and the current vice chair is Commissioner Irons,
Right.
and clearly you're the
I am
chair.
I'm okay with
Now,
keeping
Ty
it.
Burley,
Yeah.
you say?
I move we just keep it the same.
I say we keep it the same. I'm okay with that.
But let's do them one at a time, just so it's clear and in our meeting notes. I guess. Do we need a motion for this?
Yes, we
I think need a
do.
motion, so,
Yep.
it's either pick someone or retain your, I don't.
I motion to select you as chair.
Okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second for the motion?
I second.
Second, motion would be
Yeah.
for.
Who got that one?
Either one, both of us.
We'll give this one to Jamie.
Okay.
So, that require a vote.
Yeah.
So motion, for myself, to receive to be chair for this year, seconded, we do a vote, roll call, please.
Yes, we'll do that. So, Commissioner Tenai,
yes,
Commissioner Connell,
Yes. 21.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Layton,
Yes.
Commissioner Carberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Irons,
Yes.
Chair Barisi,
Abstain.
abstain. Motion carried.
Okay, so next is vice chair. Before there's any motions, is anyone interested in it? Sam, do you have a preference one or the other?
I motion to retain myself as vice chair.
That is a motion, okay. Does anyone else have any other preferences? Or is there discussion, or do we have a second?
We have a second.
Oh, you second, okay, I'm sorry, so that calls for vote. So we do roll call.
Yep, so Commissioner, Tenai,
yes,
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Layton,
Yes.
Commissioner Carberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Irons,
Abstain.
and Chair Barisi.
Yes,
Okay, motion carries. Congratulations to you both.
congratulations, Sam. Alright. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's look at approval of minutes from the last meeting, which was December 19th. Has everyone had a chance to read it? Any issues with it? Looked good to me.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for, planning commission meeting December 19th, 2024.
I second.
second,
First condition.
So Jamie, is getting the second here. So,
Okay, so motion and a second, so, let's vote on that.
all right, on the minutes, Commissioner Tenai,
yes,
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Layton,
Yes.
Commissioner Carberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Irons,
Yes.
and Chair Barisi.
Yes.
Just a note on the minutes, we're making a lot of changes to records retention, and meeting minutes are a permanent record. And so what you're gonna see, we decided to start this with the January meeting. So with this meeting tonight, we will in the future have a signature line on the minutes. It'll be the chair, or in his absence, the vice chair. And then I don't know who will have the attest line. I don't know if that will be Areli or one of the, I mean, it will be somebody on the staff side that will be attesting that. Just so you know, when next month, when you see it go, well, there's never been a signature line before. It's a new process that we're gonna start implementing relative to discerning the difference between draft and final, which means permanent. So just want you to know that going forward.
Okay, so we have a public hearing. It looks like just one tonight. I will call the public hearing. Boardman. So this is site design review, RDW 24-000090 for Knutson Engineering, the applicant and Devon Equipment LLC as the owner. Property is described as tax lots 1200 and 1300 of assessors map 4 North 25 East 09 CC and is zoned commercial, tourist commercial. The request is to approve a convenience store, 16 gas pumps, and a drive-through restaurant. Criteria for the approval are found in the Boardman Development Code, Chapter 4.2, Development Review and Site Design Review, along with standards in Chapter 2.2.10, Tourist Commercial Subdistrict, and Chapter 3, Design Standards, being processed Type 3 decision. So we'll conduct the public hearing tonight as follows: staff report, public testimony in the order of applicant, testimony in support of the application, testimony opposing the application, neutral testimony, and rebuttal if necessary. We will then close the public testimony. After the record is closed for testimony, no other testimony will be heard from anyone unless the planning commission has a specific question. Planning commission may ask questions of staff, after which the planning commission will discuss the matter and make a decision. Planning commission may make a final decision tonight, or the matter may be continued to a time and date certain in the future. If the matter is continued, this will be the only notice of that time and date you will receive. Testimony, if you wish to speak, please file a testimony form. Good sir, in our audience, if you wish to speak, fill out a form. I will recognize those people who wish to speak. And it looks like we have at least one, maybe two audience members in Zoom land.
Yeah, I'm sure, well, yes, the applicants' representatives are on Zoom tonight, so I'm gonna assume that they will both be testifying as on behalf of the applicant.
Perfect. Any questions should be addressed through myself. Please state both your name and address for the record when you come to the podium or speak, as the agenda is being recorded. Please keep testimony concise and to the point. Testimony should be on the action under consideration and address the substantive criteria. The criteria that apply to the decision are listed in the staff report. Testimony on other issues will be rejected, not considered by the planning commission. Failure to raise an issue in sufficient detail to allow the planning commission and the parties the ability to respond to the issue prohibits an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals or LUBA based on that issue. Similarly, failure to raise a constitutional or other issues regarding any conditions of approval in sufficient detail to allow the planning commission to respond to the issue prohibits a lawsuit in circuit court on that basis. Now I ask members of the planning commission to disclose any ex parte contacts, bias, or conflicts of interest. Please indicate the nature and extent of the ex parte contact. bias or conflict of interest and indicate whether you intend to participate in or abstain from the hearing.
I'm gonna abstain. I feel like I have a conflict of interest because it would negatively affect my business, along with the rest of the independent businesses.
Okay,
So I need to abstain.
Commissioner Layton is abstaining from this public hearing. Is there anyone else who wishes to disclose any conflict of interest, as particular bias? Okay, does anyone in the audience wish to challenge a planning commissioner's impartiality?
Jackson, that'd be you.
My grandma told me to stay calm while the meeting was going.
Oh, okay, well, thank you. We appreciate that. It's always fun when you have children.
I'm saying it's not, I'm making them go nuts.
Okay, staff report. Stephanie, is that you?
That's me. All right, good evening. So what we have in front of us tonight, you all received a copy and have in front of you the summary of the findings of fact. So this request is to approve the construction of a gas station with 16 pumps and incorporated drive-through restaurant. The proposal is a use that's allowed, and this, these findings will dictate how that authorization is allowed. The applicant in this case is Knudsen Engineering, with the owner being, I put Devon Oil Company on here as it was reflected on the application. We later see that in assessor's records, it is Devon Equipment. The general location of this is at the southwest corner of South Main Street and Southwest Front Street. And the property is currently bare. It is in the process of being replatted to eliminate a property line that currently separates them in two. We actually have the plats in our office. I indicated in here that we were expecting them any day now. We did receive that today, so we anticipate that that will be finished up really soon. This is the former site of a restaurant, on the west side of it. That restaurant caught fire and was demolished in 2006. And on the east side of it, there was a 12-pump fueling station, convenience store, and fast food, deli food establishment that was demolished in 2021. Ever since 2021, the entire site has remained bare. So this request is not wholly dissimilar from what previously existed there. Historically, there was a pre-application meeting with the planning official, and site team was held on January 9th with area utility and public service providers. For the zone, gas stations, convenience stores, and restaurants are uses that are allowed. The tourist commercial sub-district is, the purpose of that is to accommodate the traveling public at the Interstate 84 interchange, and this development would be consistent with that purpose. There are utilities underground there. During our site team meeting, it was coordinated how those utilities would get to the structure itself, and the applicant agreed to work with all utility companies in the future. There are 3 access points proposed, one of them existing along Southwest Main Street. The other 2 would be new access points. For each of those, access permits would be required. It is worth noting that the access point along Main Street is a shared access between this piece of property and the adjoining property, which is the car wash that's there. And precedent to this, the applicant shall submit plans and obtain proper permits for any sign, structures, or landscaping that show that they're keeping vision areas clear. So that would be precedent to any construction. The applicant does show sidewalks on the site plan. However, improvements along Southwest Front Street are imminent for the city of Boardman, so that will necessitate coordination with the city of Boardman prior to and during the installation of the sidewalks. I think they're working through a set timeline on the Front Street redevelopment over there, so it would be important that the applicant work with our Public Works Department as they go through that process as well. A landscaping plan will also be required. Part of that, as you'll see on the bottom of page 8 in the box or page 5 of these findings, street trees, a landscaping plan is required. However, street trees are not appropriate for this development. And Boardman's really trying to get away from street trees due to the damage that it does to some of the water sewer lines and sidewalks. So on page 6 of the findings or page 9 of this packet, it talks about fences and walls. I included that in there. Although a fence was not part of this original site plan, it does put the applicant on notice that if a fence or wall would be desired for this, then they would need to obtain a fence permit. That was listed as a condition of approval. And then on to the next page, it goes on to vehicle and bicycle parking. Page 7 shows all the criteria that's required. There is no on-street parking allowed, and the applicant does not propose any on-street parking. In total, there will be 29 on-site parking spaces for the convenience store and restaurant, and they identify the disabled parking spaces on the site plan. Hard to see on the site plan, but along Front Street, there is an area where they've identified 3 bicycle parking spaces as required within the code, so that would be there along the sidewalk. For public facilities, of note, water and wastewater can be accessed on the north side of the property, but as I mentioned, the redevelopment of that will be happening soon. So because this, there would be improvements that would be required on the applicant's behalf, along Southwest Front Street. This can be accomplished through a remonstrance agreement with the city of Boardman. That was listed as a condition of approval. And it kind of goes into a little bit more detail about that and the requirements on page 9 and gets into the sanitary sewer and water service improvements. All of those will need to be done to the city code standards, and any review of the construction plan will need to be approved by the city engineer. Stormwater management would be applicable on this property. All stormwater shall be maintained on site and comply with design and installation standards. There was discussion about stormwater and some concerns about how that would be managed, and that was hashed out during the site team. So the applicant is aware of those standards. And then on page 15 of the packet is the start of the recommendation. Planning official does recommend approval of this request with the conditions of approval that are listed on page 12 and 13 of the findings. As you'll see, there are 14 conditions listed there. That would be, the applicant would be subject to that. And attached with this are the vicinity map, a site plan, and a proposed floor plan for the project. So if you guys have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer those. And that would conclude my stuff.
Well, a couple questions. You said that the property owners have been putting in a fence, they want to add a fence to this? Or
They did
don't?
not indicate a fence in the application.
Okay, my question would be, where would that?
Yeah,
Okay. So between the property south of it, the, car wash is gonna be.
It'll just be open.
My next question is the street access off Main Street. Due to how close that is to the front street, is that gonna be subject to the right in, right out only, that front street
So,
plan for that? I'm
Right.
wondering about access.
right, so the interchange area management plan does foresee the movement towards a right in, right out requirement. At this point in time, our position is that we don't believe the warrants have been met to trigger those medians. However, we've let this applicant know and any other applicant in that area that the IAMP is applicable. And that at some point in time, those right in, right outs will happen. When you look at the strictest application of the IAMP, It also references closing accesses along Main Street. I mean, we had this conversation when we were talking about the street lights, so I'm not sharing anything new with you guys. But at this point in time, that particular access on Main Street, that's it. I mean, this property could get access from front. But the property to the south, where actually the next two properties to the south, both the one that's been developed with the laundromat and the car wash, and then the vacant one adjacent to that, they have no other access opportunities other than Main. So we can't reasonably close Main Street to them.
Okay.
But at the point in time that front would become a right in, right out, and that median would be extended to the south, then yes, those access points would become right in, right out. We also won't do that until such time as the loop roads are completed. At this point in time, the loop road is completed on the east side. It is part of the west side project that's coming this summer. We will complete the loop on the west side. But completion of the loop does not necessarily mean that the full warrants have been met to restrict front or Main Street accesses to a right in, right out. So the applicant is aware that that is a likelihood when traffic gets to the point when those warrants are triggered, that we would need to install those medians. Our intent is not to install those medians until those warrants are met. Does that get to the question you're looking for?
yeah.
Okay. And when we, so after just so a little more background, after the pre-application meeting that we had some months ago with the applicant, there was further conversations between Mike Lees, the city engineer, and Mr. Devon's team, his consultant team. I'm not sure who all attended. I know Mr. Knudsen was at that meeting. I'm sure others were as well. And they went through how the design for this should happen relative to the future development of that right in, right out and those barriers. So they accounted for that as they developed this with the two accesses on Front Street.
And of note, when we had the site team meeting last week, the fire marshal requested that there be an additional fire hydrant near the Main Street access point as shown on here. And they identified a good location for it, and the fire marshal did request that access point not go away for fire access purposes, so.
Yeah.
That water line size was increased, right?
Right, so the water line on Front Street has not been increased yet. That is part of the discussion that we're having with the Devon folks because of this development and others to assure that there's adequate water and fire water. We need to upsize the current line is only a 6-inch, and we need to up that to, and I believe what is being engineered is an 8-inch. So that's part of the conversation that we are going to have with them relative to the condition that talks about the remonstrance agreement relative to those improvements. Part of that is the upsizing of the water line from 6 inches to 8 inches. And then part of that is their half-street improvements for front.
That's the same water line that would service the hotel and
Yes.
stuff that we talked about earlier
Yep.
last year?
Yep. Actually, it was last year. You're right, it was last year.
Yeah.
I guess we had in January, don't we? Yes. Any other questions from the planning commission? I think the only clarifying comment I would make on Stephanie's staff report is she indicated that there is bicycle parking. It's hard to see. And I'm not gonna tell you exactly where it is either, but when you look at the site plan, there's the dark from the store going towards Front Street, so going north out of the store or the front sidewalk off the store, there's what appears to be a painted sidewalk on there. The bike rack is not too far from where that painted sidewalk across the parking area would be.
On the
So,
sidewalk side?
It's identified with what's the number there?
when Mr. Knudsen does his presentation, I have no doubt he's gonna be able to tell us exactly what number and exactly where it's at. So I might defer to his testimony for that clarity, but again, it is on there,
What kind of
yes.
separation is gonna be between this and the car wash property and the laundromat property, or is it just gonna be one big?
Yeah, it's just gonna be, I think it's just gonna feel like one big site. So, I think that Commissioner Connell, I think I'm gonna defer the kind of the circulation pattern to the applicant and let them walk you through that.
Well, I did notice the access on, the roadway access on to Main Street indicates a right turn only exit. Is that the plan for that?
Right, that, again, that would be at the point in time that the median goes in, that would be a right in, right out, yes. But again, we're not, our current position is that we don't think that warrants have been met yet to do the right in, right out.
Fair enough. Any other questions for staff? Was there any correspondence?
No, there's been no additional correspondence on this.
Okay. Public testimony. Do we have an applicant or representative applicant?
Hi, I'm here on behalf of I am the applicant, Paul with Knutson Engineering. Would you like me to state my name and address and then I can start, or I just thought you were asking if I was here.
Absolutely.
So my address is 5401 Ridgeline Drive in Kennewick, Washington. Yeah, we submitted, prepared and submitted the site plan and application on behalf of our client. We've kind of been working on this project for about 5 years now, since about the time when they were getting ready to demolish the buildings. It's taken a while due to, you know, the pandemic that happened, and interest rates, I'm sure, something that affected it. And here we are, though today, the owner, the property owner, which is Devon Oil, which Devon Equipment, as Stephanie stated, as the legal property owner, but it's that's the company that's doing this. That's the land entity, but it's this one and the same. They're proposing a Circle K combined with a Burger King. We depicted on the site plan, which is kind of hard to see in your packet because it's just 8.5 by 11, but assuringly we did prepare it on a larger scale, so it's easier to read on the bigger paper. There's also an attached floor plan too that somewhat shows the delineation of the spaces inside of the building, which are reserved for the Circle K business operations, the common restrooms, and then the Burger King restaurant itself. I want to say it's been about 9 months or so since we started the correction of the property to combine those two lots and prepare the replat. And I'm glad to hear that the map finally made it to the city today, so that can move forward and these lots can be legally joined. We wanted to, you know, as developing this project and Boardman, knowing we have to go through this process, we prepared this site plan with input from the client, the architect, the design team on this, and we'd had numerous meetings along the way with regard to the various improvements that will come about when the traffic warrants happen, and also with the utility improvements to Front Street. I know the question was pointed out, and I'm glad the commissioner noted it. We were showing a ride out on Main with this site plan. We actually are showing, you have to look really closely, but we were actually showing a future barrier curb in the middle of Main Street because we had received that line work from the consultant long time ago. But we understand after our meeting last week that will not be there now. We show it as note number 17. It says barrier curb by others along that stretch of Main Street. So our intent was that driveway is right in, right out. But after the meeting that we had, we understood the concerns with the fire marshal wanting to have a fire hydrant there and very good access. And so although this site plan hasn't shown any revisions to curves or the radiuses of the property coming in, that we may have to slightly increase that driveway, but you know, we'll comply with the condition to apply for the access permit on there. I can say another one of the comments that was raised at the pre-application meeting, to clarify, is that we're not barricading, restricting access to the car wash here with this layout. This layout, what we're showing is paint striping on the ground. And we're just showing that for the delineation purposes of where you go, how you get in and how you get out. That was somewhat of a question for us internally as well when we were looking at this design. It was not apparent, based on the survey that was done, that there was actually any legal access for the car wash to use the driveway, because this driveway is about 90%, 95% on the property that we prepared the site plan for. There's a small piece of it which goes beyond the property line and it's shared over there. But with that in question, with that, their legality of having a true access point there, we're keeping it there. We're not disturbing it, not changing it, not adding a wall, not adding a fence. I know the fence question was brought up. We're not planning or showing any fencing right now. If that condition came about, we understand that there'd be a separate permitting process for the fence. I'll mention too, since the question was raised about the bicycle parking, there's actually a little note there. It says 22. It's at the northerly tip of the building. There's 2 trash enclosures right up there. And then you just head towards the public sidewalk, and then there's that little note 22. It's next to the striped crosswalk that we're showing for the pedestrian to have an ADA pathway from the city's public sidewalk up into the building. We've had a chance to review the conditions on the project and don't see any problems whatsoever with the conditions. As the applicant, I've done a few projects in Boardman. I want to say the last one I did was the Family Dollar store, or was it Dollar General? I think I did both of them actually. Experience working with Boardman, know the folks there, always had good luck working with the fire marshal, public works department, the building official, great staff. We certainly, the owners intend to do a very good project here, and want to be respectful of the community and do a good project. I mean, this is really kind of at the focal point of town when you drive in right off the freeway. Of course, the longer they have the full access on Main, I think that would benefit them longer, as opposed to having it restricted with the way that the loop road will eventually be. But until that time, and even after that time, this project should be a good project, and hopefully the city agrees and the community. So unless there's any specific questions, we as the applicant agree with the conditions that are set forth, and would appreciate positive consideration of this project.
Mr. Baker, did you want to add anything on behalf of the applicant?
I have really nothing to add. No, Paul explained it perfectly. So no, unless anybody has any questions, I'm available.
Well, just in case, can we get your name and address for the record?
Absolutely. Bruce Baker, 16808 South Clodfelter Road, Kennewick, Washington, 99338.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had one question, probably Mr. Knudsen. So I'm looking at the drawings here, looking at number 27, east side of the property. Number 27, is that electric vehicle charging? Is that what those are?
I believe so, yes.
Yes.
I don't know if the 27 is, but yeah.
The 27 is just a note that calls off to the side, where if you read 27, it says it's an EV capable parking stall with power conduit from the building. So that's What it means, they're not putting in the charging stations yet. The Oregon building code doesn't require that quite yet. They do require it now in Washington, so we're getting used to starting to put them in more and more projects. But until they actually require the chargers to be put in, at the very least, they're going to have provisions for future chargers to be installed. We also have some, if you'll notice right at the front of the entry as well, right next to the handicap, because with the EV, even if there's not an EV charger provided yet, you have to make considerations for ADA to have EV access as well and not discriminate. So we actually have I want to say 3 or 4 locations where we have EV charging. Actually,
Okay, but there are no current plans to install chargers at those locations?
no, not at this time. If the owner was on here, he could probably elaborate more as to if they have any near term or short term, but it wasn't a part of this project as we had it designed right now. I can say, doing these in other jurisdictions, I know that it really increases the power supply requirements, the demand. And so where let's say a normal project, and I'm making up this number, so bear with me because I'm not an electrical engineer, but a normal project may require an 800 amp power service. When you add in charging stations for 30% of the parking lot, like they're requiring in Washington, or 45% as we require in Washington for housing developments, multifamily housing, your transformer goes up from 800 amps to 1200 amps. It's substantial. And then that's only that's not counting what they call the level 3 chargers. What we're talking about is the level 2, which is right in the middle. It's like if you had a Tesla and you parked it in your garage, you would hook up a level 2 charger. A level 1 charger would be the 15 amp, that you plug into any wall, and it would take you days to charge your car. The level 3 would be the supercharger type. I know in the Tri-Cities we have a couple places where they recently did some sun markets, which got bought out by Jackson's, and they've started to put some of those in there. Of course, Fred Meyer has some. I'm sure there's some down in your guys' neck of the woods too. I can't readily rattle off where they're at.
So I'll add a little bit of that for clarity on the building code side. So in Oregon, the current law is that when you do certain types of development, you have to provide the ability to install it. They made the installation requirements a local decision. And we have not in Boardman made the decision to require EV charging stations. There are EV charging stations in town. Obviously, there are a number of them at the Sage Center, and they get used regularly. But we've not made the local decision yet to require them. Now, some jurisdictions in Oregon have said, yes, not only the building codes requires you put the power in, we're gonna actually require you put in half or all or some version of. Boardman has not taken that step yet. That doesn't mean we won't at some point in time, but as of now, we have not. And the building official clarifies that you have to install the conduit and you have to have space in your panel. So you can't put the conduit in and then not have space. So his requirement is that you have to have space and you have to have the conduit.
Gotcha.
Okay.
They don't have any questions?
I do, but it might be a silly question, but don't we already have a Circle K? I mean, is this my imagining? that?
Sort of.
Okay,
It's their business also,
okay,
same owner.
so we'd have 2 Circle Ks.
Well, we don't have a Circle K. We have the Chevron with its C-store, and we have the Sinclair with their C-store. There used to be a Circle K in town, but there hasn't been for a number of years.
Well, the Chevron uses Circle K
We did
to a
it.
certain degree, like if you're part of their club, whatever, and Circle K, the cups say Circle K, da.
Right.
So,
And the big sign out.
Yeah.
The building says Circle K, right? I'm not imagining that, right?
Over there?
I think it's a good question. I personally don't know the answer behind it. Because when I've driven through town, I always go through Circle K and get a Polar Pop for 89 cents or whatever. And it was always right there if I'm heading westbound, on the right-hand side where the Chevron is. But I don't know that they're connected officially. I mean, I know that one definitely doesn't have a Burger King attached to it. So this one I think will be a little bit of an upgrade in terms of that, and it'll be brand new. It should be a larger size store. The bathrooms will be way better here. But I'm sorry, I don't know who the ownership group is on that. If it is the same or if perhaps it's a
It's the
corporate.
same,
It's the same.
Is it?
it's the same.
So is it, what kind of fuel is it gonna be? Texaco, Chevron?
No idea.
No idea.
I don't know. I mean, I know their business is oil. I don't know what brand of oil it is or if it's some independent brand or what, but when we had our pre-app meeting last week, the preliminary meeting, he was talking to me before our topic came up on the agenda because I think of oil barons as being like, someone in Texas or California that has their own oil fields and where's your oil fields? And he was explaining that's not exactly how they do it, but they're an independent oil broker that does this. So he was giving me a lesson about how it worked, and then we had to start talking about our project. So I didn't get to hear the whole lesson. If he was here, I'm sure he would chime in. But yeah, it was Doug Devon, and I think his brother Rich are the Devon brothers. Their father, the patriarch, had passed away like, I don't know, 8 years ago, and their children are in it, but they don't know if it's gonna stay in a family. I don't know. It's off topic for sure.
All right, any other questions for the applicant? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone who wishes to speak against the application? How do you recuse yourself? You speak, right?
Really? I
Yeah.
can speak against it?
You can speak for or against it. Yeah, I mean, you've recused yourself from the commission on this
True, I have,
public
okay,
hearing, so.
so I will speak against it. Jennifer Layton, I'll use my work address, 103 North Main Street. I'm the current owner of C&D, which is, the burger place, obviously right across the freeway. Not only do I oppose it, obviously a fast food restaurant, it would be terrible for me, but it would also be really bad for the rest of the independent mom and pop stores that we have in our town. So it would really, really negatively affect all of our towns. We have, quite a few food pods, we have quite a few independent, places, and we don't have the big names, and putting in a fast food place with a brand name on there is really gonna negatively affect all of us. I mean, I realize the gas station is supposed to bring tourists and bring people into our town, but I don't wanna hurt our town at the same time as we're trying to grow it.
Do you know, I know next to nothing about the food industry in this town. I'm curious, like, do you have any knowledge on like that food pod? Like, did that hinder your business? Did that like help
Well,
other businesses in the area?
of
Or
course.
it has to?
I mean, anytime you bring in another business, it's going to negatively affect yours because your bottom line is going to go down. The food pod, I can't say how much it affected our business because of obviously the pandemic and COVID and all of that. I mean, that was probably the worst, thing for all of our businesses. We're all still trying to recover and recuperate and figure out what our losses were and get our people back. Because, once you lose them, it's really hard to get them back. But it's like I said, there's me, but there's so many other independent places in town. I think it would negatively affect all of us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak against the application? I don't think there's anyone else in the audience.
No,
or Zoom land, is there?
nope, you guys, we commissioners and the two proponents, so.
Any neutral testimony by chance? Okay, would the applicant wish to provide a rebuttal?
I'll just say something briefly. I understand the negative comment or connotation towards the development. I wish the owner was here as well to speak to this more so than me, because I'm not the one that has a vested interest in this project. But the thing that I would, remind the commission is that this project adheres to the zoning code. These are allowable uses in this zone on this property, and we're proposing something that's consistent with, the zoning regulations, the municipal code of the city. So where I do understand, my father runs a small meat market. He passed away 2 years ago, but in Pasco. So, when a big place opens up, I mean, it's certainly competition, but some of those, it's just business. It certainly isn't personal, and I understand and I sympathize, but the facts are the facts, and that's what should be considered by the project, by the commission. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knudsen. Public testimony portion of the hearing is now closed. Staff need to respond to question issue raised by testimony. All the questions were addressed by you. Is
Except,
there anything else?
no, there was some testimony that was after that we've not addressed. So I'm gonna echo Mr. Knudsen's comments. I also understand Ms. Layton's comments. But again, this is an application. It complies with the development code. They are all three uses that are allowed. This process is not about a yes or a no. It's about the how. They've shown that they can meet the standards. And again, we can all understand Ms. Layton's concerns. But at the end of the day, your job, our job as staff, your job as the planning commission, is to consider the request and does it comply with the standards. So, yeah.
Okay, does anyone in the commission have any questions for staff? This is the time. I don't know if I have any questions personally. I think I asked them all earlier. I don't. I asked the commission to look at the packet page 15 and 16 for specifically the conditions of approval. There's 14 conditions of approval. To look over those. They look pretty straightforward to me. All fairly reasonable. Did anyone have any questions specifically regarding the conditions of approval or any other questions like that? In a dark, well, it says page 12, 13, but then in 12 box, it says 15. Gotcha. Any questions from Zoom land? Sam, David, or Ragnar?
I have none.
I have one. So since I own one of the food plots, since the food plots have been mentioned, should I abstain? Carla, should I recuse myself or abstain from this commentary? Or this vote?
I will, yeah, I'll tell you, Commissioner Jones, the same thing I said to Commissioner Layton. If you feel that your risk from competition is such that you can't make an impartial decision, if you feel as though you are biased, then you should recuse yourself.
Okay.
If you feel you can make a decision without that bias, then you're welcome to make that decision.
Okay, yeah, I can.
Okay, and Ragnar, any questions for staff on your end?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, amongst the commission, is there any discussion that we would like to have regarding this?
Do they know what the timeline is?
Yeah, we talked about timeline, at the site team meeting. I think, there are still some design things to wrap up. And, obviously, we have ongoing questions about the Front Street improvements, and, coordination on that. But they were indicating potential construction start by summer. 6 to 9 month construction timeline, so opening spring of what is next year, 26.
Oh, I had one question. Would this trigger a traffic impact study?
We had a lot of talk about that internally, and we determined that because the existing businesses were in place. So, at the time of the TSP, the Taco Bell would have been in place, along with the convenience store and 12 gas islands. And then, the Nomad would have been, is that right, the Nomad? Was in place at that point in time as well. Now, at the time that the IMP was done, the Nomad had already burned. But we determined that the IMP accounted for trips from kind of the bulk of what's being proposed here, because there was still a convenience store and a deli at that point in time, as well as the 12 gas islands.
Still a few.
Yeah, so we determined that the impacts were not significantly different than the impacts that had been there previously.
So this will go in before the hotel?
Probably.
'Cause that's gonna, I mean, between the two of them, there should be.
There's probably gonna be a lot of construction in that quadrant. Very likely, there could be a lot of construction in that quadrant that would be like road construction and then this construction. And then again, the hotel property is the hotel, the restaurant, and the RV. I believe they're still keeping the RV resort in the mix as well. So there could be a lot of construction in this quadrant over the next.
Which is gonna, I mean, I was getting to that based on the impact, the traffic impact study, which obviously if they were anywhere near each other, that would be required, right? Because it's gonna considerably enhance traffic in that area with both of them.
So
Whoever's second would be,
no, so we've already required that the hotel development provide a traffic impact study before construction. So yeah, they still have to come back and get a development review permit, and at the point in time they come back for that, they have to submit their traffic impact study. Again, we didn't require anything for this development because we determined that it was comparable to what was there at the time that the IMP was adopted.
Is there anything else that the commission should discuss, or any commissioner has to bring anything up? Ragnar, Sam, David, I want to make sure you don't get left out. Any discussion points from any of you?
No, sir.
I'm good.
No, I'm just fine. I don't feel left out either.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, so next course of action would be to entertain a motion. What I would be looking for is either a motion to approve the site design review as presented, or a motion to approve the site design review as amended. Which, if anyone wants to propose any amendments, or a motion to deny the site design review for stated reasons. I'd be looking to a commissioner to provide one of those options.
I will ask for a motion for approval of site design review RVW 24-4090.
As presented, or?
Yes, as presented, sorry.
As presented, okay. Okay, so there's a motion, is there any discussion on that motion? The motion is to approve site design review RVW 24-000090 as presented, which have 14 conditions of approval.
You would need a second before you could discuss.
I got it backwards now.
I'll second it.
Okay, all right, we got a motion and a second, and now is when we can discuss the motion. Is there any discussion on that? I wanna make sure everyone's had a chance to read all 14 conditions of approval. I think they're all pretty straightforward. I had no questions on them, but does anyone have any discussion points on the motion? Okay, can we roll call vote, please?
Sure. Commissioner Tenai,
Yes,
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Layton has recused herself, Commissioner Carberry,
Yes.
Commissioner Irons,
Yes.
and Chair Barisi.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 6-0 with one recusal. So, Mr. Knutson and Mr. Baker, you should have your staff decision. Monday's a holiday. We've got some staff out tomorrow, but you should have it sometime next week. Thank you. You're
Great.
welcome to stick around if you want. We won't be offended if you sign off.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
Thank you both for your
Appreciate it.
time.
Have a good night, everybody.
Okay. So, are you ready for the planning official update?
Yeah.
So I included a memorandum. Again, it is the same memorandum that went to the city council for their meeting at the beginning of this month. It just kind of reviews where we're at with a variety of the projects that we're working on. I also put a memo on at your seats tonight. We do have a couple events that are coming up. For you guys online, I will try to remember to PDF and send this to I'll just send it to all of your city emails tomorrow, so you'll have the memo there as well. But the two events, it's kind of three events, 2 different days, that I really encourage you to come to is on January 29th. We are having we're having what I'm calling dueling open houses here at City Hall. They're both from 6 to 8. One is for the Parks Master Plan and the other one is for the Transportation System Plan. When I realized that I double booked myself for that night, I kind of had an expletive moment and then realized that it might not be a bad idea. It really gives us an opportunity, people who have an interest in transportation, we can encourage them to also go look at the park stuff. And working with both of those teams, I think there's gonna be some really interesting stuff on both of those projects. So again, as future decision makers in the adoption of both of these, I can't encourage you enough to come, please. I think you will find that it's a really good investment of a couple of hours of your time if you can make it, and I understand if you can't.
This is the open house, right?
This is the open house on January 29th. Yep. I don't think even if you wandered through both, I don't think you will be here for 2 hours. But it is an open house style, so come when you can, stay for as long as you can, see what you want, and feel free to go. We are trying to make it kid friendly. So there will be a station for kids. It will be a combined station with both park and transportation kind of information there for kids. And then we're gonna make sure we've got some, water, probably a plate of cookies. I mean, I don't know, we'll have some kind of beverage or food or something, so.
Have a comfortable couch.
Yeah, well, we've got a bench in here.
Looks pretty comfy.
Yeah, but we do have
Snoring, he's been snoring.
We've got a couch and 2 chairs over there, so it'll be throughout the building. We're gonna use the new large conference room on our side of the far side of the building. We'll use the large conference room. We'll be using this space out front here as well as what I call the living room out here. So we're just gonna use that space and have people be able to wander through, so
That's Tony. She's
Oh.
probably Jackson.
Yeah.
Did I just hear you right? Did you say, oh, it's just Tony?
I didn't say anything.
He's down asleep.
He's been snoring.
The other event is a joint workshop between this body and the city council prior to the city council meeting on February 4th. So again, I really encourage you to come. It will be noticed as a public workshop. Now in a workshop situation, there's not public input. It's gonna be a presentation from Matt Hasty, who is the consultant with MIG, they're a planning group. They've been doing the strategic planning work for us, so they were the ones who did the big survey. They've done some analysis of that. They're doing some additional analysis of that, and that's gonna be presented to you both. And we wanted you guys to be aware of what's being presented, because this really is what's gonna kind of formulate where are we going for the next 20+ years as the city of Boardman. So we're hoping that there's enough data and information that came out of that survey that we can begin to put some thoughts around those questions. What is it people are looking for? What kind of growth do we anticipate we're gonna have? So I can't encourage you enough not to come to that one as well. And again, I understand we're busy. We all have busy schedules. That night as well, I forgot to put that on here, but that night as well, we're taking professional photographs of all staff and all appointed and elected officials. So do your hair, put on your nicest shirt, put on your nicest blouse, come on in, it'll be a headshot. So, you know, you can still wear your jeans, your cowboy boots, or whatever you want below. But we are gonna populate the website with your
Yay.
mugshots.
Should have told them that we're gonna have food instead of photographs.
Well, we'll probably have food as well, because usually when there's a workshop.
Then, yeah.
Well, all of the workshops that we've been doing for the city council, we have provided some food at 5:30. I will make sure, Amanda, let me know if you're gonna be here. And I will make sure that there is whatever's the menu that night, we'll make sure there's enough for you guys as well. So do come to that. I think it will be very informative as well. And again, if you can't make it in person, let me know. It will be available by Zoom, the one on the 4th.
And the pictures be like 5:30?
3 to 5. I think the
Wow.
photographer's gonna be here 3 to 5.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yep. And if you can't make that, if that just doesn't work in your schedule, if you can't figure out how to get here a little bit, you know, even a little bit before 5, there'll be, you know, for those who can't make it, there'll be another one at some point in time. But we're trying to get as many done on the 4th as possible, so. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really, unless you guys have questions about what's going on, just briefly, what I will share. Next Thursday on the 23rd, we'll have our first PAC meeting for the Comprehensive Plan and Development Code. So that's
When is that?
next Thursday, the 23rd. You got an email invite to your city email.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Yep. So, yeah, there's just a whole lot going on. The Parks Master Plan will not have a PAC meeting when they're here on the 29th. But the TSP will have a PAC when they're here on the 29th. So I can't remember, are you?
I'm on the parkway.
You're on the Parkland.
I don't remember.
I don't remember who the TSP is. David, is that you? Are you on the TSP committee?
I'm on the TSP.
Okay, so there will be a PAC meeting for the TSP on the 29th. I don't have a time for that yet, so.
Okay, so what time will I need to be there on the 29th? Do you know? To be safe?
My guess is the PAC will be in the afternoon and then the open house will be from 6 to 8. And
Okay,
again.
so probably
after-
block out from 4 on, I should be safe.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I've got. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
I have a question. So on the 23rd, what time is it?
The 23rd,
5 p.m.
the 23rd is the PAC meeting, so it's the PAC meeting for the comprehensive plan and the development code. It'll be from 3 to 5. So it's not a planning commission event. It would be a meeting.
No,
for those-
I understood that. I was just gonna come and butt my nose in.
Oh, okay. Well, you're welcome to do that. 3 to 5.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Guess the only other thing I would say is I made a note tonight that I will share with Stephanie and Aurelie later. But I was cognizant of the fact that in your packet, you have an 8.5 by 11 site plan. We will make sure in the future that we put an 11 by 17 on the dais for you. so that you can have that a little bit larger format here. If we did paper packets and mailed them to you, we could send them to you, but we don't tend to send them. But when we print paper packets, or when somebody says, yes, I'm gonna come in and pick up my packet, well, and we don't have a problem with that. Ragna does it, Jamie, that's fine, come by and pick it up, I get it, I'm a paper, I hate reading things on a screen, I print everything.
Put it on the screen, it means I have to go to the site and actually open it up and read it, if it's in my hands.
Yeah, you can take it home, you
Yeah.
can read it in the bathtub, yeah, all those things. So, we'll start making those in larger format so that, you can see them a little better, because those notes were pretty hard to read.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's it for, planning official update.
All right. Oh, well, now is the public comment time and. Oh, public.
Well, Mr. Baker is still here, maybe he wants to share something as a member of the public.
You didn't
Time for
tell
public
him to
comment?
be excused.
No, I have nothing to add. I was just enjoying the conversation. Thank you.
Okay, commission comments. Any notes or comments? A commissioner would like to make,
In general,
or to be included as part of the public record? All right, well, it's just time for adjournment.
I would have to say, Sam, be safe.
Yeah, I think we need to
Yeah.
take just a moment and recognize where Sam's at and the devastation that's happening there in Southern California, and maybe if they planned better, no. But yeah, Sam, do stay safe down there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and kudos for joining while you're.
Yeah. Okay, now we can do that
All right.
last item.
Okay, we'll adjourn the meeting at
7:07,
7:07. Just over an hour.
not the shortest meeting on record, but pretty good, girls and
Yeah.
boys, right?
Have a good night, all.
Thank you all for joining us.